They're patterns of avoidance. They lie to themselves, saying they'll change when the timing is right, when life gets easier, when motivation strikes. But that moment never comes, does it? Because deep down, change terrifies them. The idea of letting go of who they've always been, of stepping into uncertainty, of facing their own inadequacies, it's overwhelming. So they stay where it's safe, never realizing that safety is the very thing suffocating them. But here's the truth. Growth isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to break you apart and force you to rebuild. It's supposed to challenge every part of you that resists discipline, rejects responsibility, and avoids hardship. And the only way to unleash your true potential is to make a deliberate, ruthless decision to kill the version of yourself that has held you back for so long. That means walking away from your bad habits, your self-imposed limitations, your dependence on external validation. It means silencing the voice in your head that tells you you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that you should wait for the perfect conditions before you take action. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need a deep, unwavering commitment to the higher version of yourself. And that commitment is forged in discipline, not feelings. You wake up and do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. You push yourself beyond what's comfortable, beyond what's familiar, beyond what's easy, because easy has never changed anyone. You train your mind to seek challenge rather than avoid it. You train your body to endure discomfort rather than run from it. You train your spirit to stand firm in the face of adversity rather than crumble under pressure. That's how you access your true potential. And understand this. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to do the work for you. No one is responsible for your transformation except you. The world doesn't owe you success, fulfillment, or happiness. Those things must be earned, and they're earned through sacrifice. You have to be willing to give up who you are today for who you could become tomorrow. And that's not an easy thing to do. It requires letting go of attachments, burning the bridges that lead back to old versions of yourself, and embracing a level of discipline most people will never have the courage to develop. But that's the cost. And the question is, are you willing to pay it? Because if you are, everything changes. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Your presence commands respect, not because you demand it, but because you've become the kind of person who naturally earns it. Your mind sharpens, your body strengthens, your willpower solidifies. And suddenly the things that once seemed impossible, the dreams you doubted, the goals you feared, become inevitable. Not because they got easier, but because you got stronger. So stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop clinging to the parts of yourself that no longer serve you. Make the decision now, once and for all, to step into the highest version of yourself. Because on the other side of that decision is everything you've ever wanted. And the only thing standing in your way is you. There is a dangerous illusion that many people fall into, a way of thinking that strips them of their power and locks them in a cycle of stagnation. It's the victim mentality, the belief that life is unfairly happening to you, that you are merely a product of your circumstances, that your failures, your setbacks, your struggles are the fault of something or someone else. And it's seductive, isn't it? Because if you convince yourself that you're powerless, then you're no longer responsible for the condition of your life. You don't have to change. You don't have to improve. You don't have to face the discomfort of taking control. But here's the truth. Every moment you indulge in that mindset, you make yourself weaker. You strip yourself of the very thing that separates those who rise from those who fall. Accountability. The people who achieve, who build, who transform, they don't waste time blaming others. They don't waste energy complaining about what's unfair. They take full ownership of their reality, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful, no matter how much it would be easier to shift the blame. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of life do you want? Do you want to stay trapped in the same cycle, constantly feeling like the world is against you, that your success depends on circumstances beyond your control? Or do you want to wake up every day with the understanding that no matter what has happened to you, no matter what obstacles stand in your way, you have the power to change, to grow, to build something better? Because that power exists whether you acknowledge it or not. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to claim it. And this isn't about dismissing struggle. It's not about pretending life is fair. Life isn't fair. Some people are born into better circumstances than others. Some people face greater hardships than others. That's reality. But your circumstances do not define your potential. Your response to them does. And if you choose to believe that you are helpless, if you choose to believe that you are at the mercy of your past, your environment, or the opinions of others, then you will stay exactly where you are. But the moment you decide to take responsibility, everything changes. Because now, you're no longer waiting for something external to fix your life. You're not waiting for permission, for approval, for someone to come along and make things easier. You realize that no one is coming to save you. And that realization is not despair, it's freedom. Because now, you know it's up to you. And if it's up to you, that means you have control. That means you have the ability to shape your future. But accountability isn't comfortable. It requires you to admit where you've been making excuses. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, to acknowledge where you've fallen short. And that's hard. Because the truth is, sometimes the reason you're not where you want to be isn't because of bad luck, or because life is unfair, or because someone else held you back. Sometimes it's because you didn't do the work, because you let fear dictate your decisions, because you wasted time seeking validation instead of building something meaningful. And that realization stings. But it's necessary, because until you own your failures, you cannot claim your success. And here's the paradox. When you stop blaming others, when you stop making excuses, when you take full responsibility for every aspect of your life, you don't become weaker, you become stronger. You become the kind of person who can handle adversity, who can adapt, who can take setbacks and use them as fuel rather than as reasons to quit. You develop the mindset that no matter what happens, no matter what challenges arise, you will find a way forward. And that kind of person is unstoppable. So stop looking for someone to blame. Stop waiting for life to be fair. Stop clinging to the illusion that your struggles absolve you from responsibility. Step up, own your life, take control. Because the second you do, the second you stop making excuses and start making changes, you will realize that you were never a victim at all. You were always capable. You just had to decide to act like it. There's something lurking beneath the surface of your life, something you avoid, something you bury under distractions and excuses. It's the part of you that's afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid of stepping into the unknown. It's the voice that whispers doubt into your mind, that convinces you to stay exactly where you are because venturing forward feels too risky. And so you settle into comfort. You make peace with mediocrity. You create a life that feels safe, predictable, and familiar, but deep down you know something is missing. You know you're capable of more, but you don't dare to confront what's holding you back. That's the nature of fear. It thrives in avoidance. It grows in the shadows, feeding on hesitation, gaining strength every time you choose to turn away from the difficult things in your life. And the more you avoid it, the more power it has over you. You begin to construct your life around it, making decisions based on what's least threatening rather than what's most meaningful. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll take the risk when I'm ready. I'll change when the time is right. But the time is never right. And as the years go by, you realize something terrifying. Your comfort has become your prison. Because comfort is deceptive. It feels good in the moment, but over time it dulls you. It strips you of your ambition, your drive, your hunger for something greater. It sedates you, keeping you in a state of passive existence rather than active living. And the worst part, it disguises itself as contentment. You convince yourself that you're fine, that you don't really need to push yourself, that it's okay to settle. But deep down, there's a gnawing sense of unease, a quiet voice reminding you that you were meant for more. And that's where the battle begins, because if you want to become something greater, if you want to break free from the limits you've placed on yourself, you have to be willing to face what you fear the most. You have to walk straight into the discomfort, into the uncertainty, into the difficult truths you've been running from. You have to stop avoiding your weaknesses and start confronting them head on. And that process, it's painful. It requires you to tear down the illusions you've built about yourself. It forces you to acknowledge where you've been falling short, to admit that you've been playing small, that you've been allowing fear to dictate your choices. But on the other side of that pain is something extraordinary. The person you were always meant to be. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. It's the willingness to step into the unknown, to take risks, to endure failure, and to keep going anyway. And that's where real transformation happens. Not in the moments of ease, but in the moments of struggle. Not when everything is going well, but when you're tested, when you're pushed to your limits, when you're forced to adapt, to grow, to become stronger than you were before. And the truth is, you don't even know what you're capable of until you put yourself in situations that demand more from you. You don't discover your true potential by staying comfortable. You find it when you challenge yourself, when you push through fear, when you take on things that seem impossible and realize that you're far more powerful than you ever imagined. But that version of you, it's on the other side of struggle, is on the other side of discomfort. And the only way to reach it is to stop running and start fighting. So ask yourself, what are you avoiding? What difficult truth do you need to face? What fear is holding you back from becoming who you were meant to be? Because until you confront it, it will own you. It will control you. It will dictate the course of your life. But the moment you make the choice to face it, to walk into the fire rather than away from it, everything changes. You take back your power. You break free from the chains of fear. And you step into the life that was waiting for you all along. Discipline is the foundation upon which every meaningful achievement is built. It is not talent, not luck, not motivation that separates those who succeed from those who remain stuck. It is discipline. The ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. The ability to push forward when every part of you wants to quit. The ability to master yourself, to control your impulses, to structure your life in a way that forces growth rather than indulges weakness. Without discipline, your potential remains just that. Potential. Nothing more than an idea, a possibility that will never be realized. And the problem is, most people rely on motivation to guide them. They wait until they feel inspired, until the conditions are perfect, until there's some external force pushing them into action. But motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the tide, unpredictable and unreliable. Discipline, however, is constant. Discipline is what carries you through when motivation disappears, when life becomes difficult, when progress feels slow and frustrating. And if you don't develop it, you will always be at the mercy of your emotions, your circumstances, and your excuses. The truth is, every day you are either strengthening discipline or weakening it. Every choice you make, every action you take is either reinforcing the habits that will make you stronger or feeding the behaviors that will keep you weak. It's in the small moments, the decision to wake up early or sleep in, the choice to push through a workout or skip it, the habit of working on your goals or wasting time in distraction. None of these individual choices seem like they matter in the moment, but over time they accumulate. They shape the trajectory of your life. And before you know it, you are either on the path to mastery or on the path to regret. And the worst part is most people don't even realize they are failing. They justify their inaction. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow. I deserve a break. It's not that important. But every time you make an excuse, you reinforce weakness. Every time you avoid discomfort, you teach yourself to quit. And quitting becomes a habit just like anything else. But so does perseverance. So does pushing through. So does showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel. And that's the difference between those who accomplish great things and those who don't. Not some innate superiority, not better opportunities, but the simple, unshakable commitment to discipline. And if you want to build that level of discipline, you need to start with your daily habits. Not grand gestures, not massive, unsustainable changes. Just the simple, consistent, repeated actions that over time forge strength. Wake up at the same time every day. Train your body, train your mind. Read, work, improve yourself, even if just by 1% each day, because small improvements compounded over time lead to extraordinary results. But only if you are consistent. Only if you refuse to let excuses dictate your behavior. Only if you recognize that discipline is not something you turn on and off when it's convenient, but something you live by, something that defines who you are. And the more disciplined you become, the more freedom you have. Because when you master yourself, when you develop the ability to control your actions rather than be controlled by impulse, you gain power. Power over your time, your results, your destiny. You are no longer a slave to procrastination, to bad habits, to external circumstances. You become the kind of person who doesn't just dream, but executes. The kind of person who doesn't just talk, but delivers. The kind of person who can be relied upon, trusted, respected, not because they demand it, but because they have earned it through their actions. And that is the essence of a warrior's discipline. It's not about perfection. It's not about never failing. It's about showing up every single day and doing the work. It's about refusing to let weakness dictate your choices. It's about understanding that the path to greatness is not found in moments of inspiration, but in the hard, unglamorous, relentless effort of disciplined action. And the only question you need to ask yourself is this: will you take control of your habits, your time, your life, or will you continue to let comfort, distraction, and inconsistency hold you back? Because in the end, discipline is not just about what you do, it's about who you become. And the person you are destined to be is waiting on the other side of your excuses. There is a trap that keeps people from ever truly becoming who they are meant to be. It's subtle, insidious, and woven so deeply into human nature that most don't even realize they've fallen into it. It's the need for approval. The desperate, relentless desire to be liked, to be accepted, to be validated by others. And at first glance, it seems harmless. After all, we're social creatures. We want to belong. We want to be appreciated. But there's a cost to placing too much value on what others think, and that cost is your authenticity, your independence, your potential. Because the more you seek approval, the more you allow the world to dictate your path. You become cautious, hesitant, constantly adjusting yourself to fit expectations that were never yours to begin with. You censor your thoughts, dull your ambitions, hold yourself back from pursuing the life you truly want because you're terrified of judgment, terrified of standing alone. And so instead of forging your own path, you follow the one that others have laid out for you. The safe, predictable, socially acceptable one. But deep down, you know something isn't right. You feel the weight of it, the slow erosion of your individuality, the creeping sense that you are living a life designed by everyone but you. And the worst part, no matter how much you chase approval, it's never enough. You can twist yourself into whatever shape the world demands. You can sacrifice your values, your voice, your dreams, but there will always be someone who disapproves, someone who criticizes, someone who tells you that you're wrong, that you should be different, that you should conform just a little bit more. And so you run in circles, exhausting yourself, trying to please people who will never be satisfied. But here's the truth. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're allowed to be who you are. The moment you stop looking outward for approval and start looking inward for direction, everything changes. You stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what do I think? You stop worrying about fitting in and start focusing on standing out. And it's difficult because for the first time, you're truly responsible for yourself. No more hiding behind the expectations of others. No more excuses. Just you facing the world as you really are. And that's frightening because the second you step away from the herd, you become a target. People will question you. They'll criticize you. They'll try to pull you back into the fold because your independence makes them uncomfortable. Your courage forces them to confront their own fears, their own compromises, their own failure to live authentically. And instead of facing that reality, they'd rather drag you down. But that is the price of carving your own path. And if you want to be more than just another anonymous, replaceable piece of the machine, you have to be willing to pay it. And this doesn't mean ignoring wisdom or rejecting every piece of feedback. It doesn't mean being arrogant, reckless, or refusing to learn. It means knowing the difference between constructive criticism and pointless noise. It means filtering out the opinions that don't serve you, that aren't based on truth, but on conformity and fear. It means understanding that real respect, real influence, real success doesn't come from being universally liked. It comes from standing firm in who you are, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when you have to stand alone. And here's the paradox. When you stop seeking approval, when you stop bending to the will of others, when you take ownership of your path, something incredible happens. The right people, the ones who respect authenticity, who admire strength, who value independence, begin to take notice. You attract the kind of people who support growth, not limitation. And suddenly, the approval you once chased doesn't matter anymore. Because you built something far more valuable, self-respect. So stop waiting for the world to tell you who you should be. Stop looking for permission to pursue what you know is right. Stop living as a watered-down version of yourself just to make others comfortable. Because the people who change the world, the ones who achieve the extraordinary, the ones who live with purpose and passion, are not the ones who spent their lives trying to be liked. They are the ones who decided that being real was far more important than being accepted. There's a version of you, one that is stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more capable. One that stands tall, unshaken by fear, undistracted by triviality, unwilling to settle for mediocrity. That version of you exists, but it isn't given. It isn't handed over by luck or circumstance. It must be earned. It must be built with intention, with effort, with sacrifice. And the greatest tragedy, most people never reach it. Not because they aren't capable, but because they refuse to commit. They settle for who they are today, for the path of least resistance, for the comfort of staying the same. They make excuses. They tell themselves they'll improve someday when life is easier, when the time is right. But the time is never right. There is never a perfect moment. There is only now. And the choices you make in this moment determine whether you move forward or remain stagnant. If you truly want to unleash your potential, you must take full responsibility for your growth. You must hold yourself to a higher standard, not just in fleeting moments of inspiration, but in the daily grind, in the habits you build, in the discipline you cultivate. You must choose progress over comfort, purpose over distraction, resilience over self-pity. And that choice isn't made once. It's made every single day, in every action, in every decision. It's not an easy road. It requires discomfort. It requires stepping into the unknown, taking risks, facing failure. But what's the alternative? A life spent wondering what could have been, a future filled with regret, knowing you had more to give but lacked the courage to give it. That is a far greater suffering than the struggle of self-improvement. You already know what you need to do. The question is whether you will do it. Whether you will rise above the version of yourself that clings to ease and excuses, or whether you will finally commit completely to the person you were meant to become. Because your higher self isn't waiting for you in the distance. It is forged in the fire of your decisions, here and now. The choice has always been yours. You can remain where you are, bound by fear, weakened by comfort, shackled by the need for approval. Or you can rise. You can kill the weak version of yourself, the one that clings to excuses and mediocrity, and step into the life you are meant to live. But make no mistake, transformation is not easy. It requires sacrifice. It demands discipline. It forces you to confront your demons, to abandon the parts of yourself that hold you back, to walk a path that few have the courage to take. Both decay and they compound. You don't just wake up one day in a ruin. You erode into it piece by piece, day by day. The first step, the absolute first step, is to bring those habits into the light, because you can't fix what you haven't faced. You can't kill what you haven't identified, and you certainly can't overcome something that you pretend isn't there. You need to become the observer of your own life. You have to develop the ability to watch yourself objectively, almost like a third person. Look at your decisions, watch your patterns, pay attention to the little ways you betray your own potential. See, people often think education is about gathering facts, but real education, the kind that transforms you, it's about self-knowledge. It's about teaching your mind to stop lying to itself, to stop sugarcoating, to stop making excuses. Real education is brutal because it exposes where you're weak. But that's also what makes it liberating. Because once you see the weak point, you can attack it, you can build over it, you can become stronger than it. When you start to notice your habits, not just act them out blindly, you reclaim power. And power isn't found in grand gestures, it's found in the subtle, repeated victories over self-sabotage. You catch yourself saying, I'll do it later. And instead you say, no, I'll do it now. That's not just productivity, that's war. That's rebellion against the inner slave who wants comfort more than greatness. The problem is most people don't want to look. They avoid self-awareness like it's a plague, because deep down they know they're not living the life they're capable of. They know they're not operating at their highest level, and it hurts to face that. It hurts to admit you've been the architect of your own failure. But that pain, that sting, is a signal. It's a gift, because it means your soul hasn't given up yet. It means there's still a fight left in you. Educating your mind to be aware isn't a one-time thing. It's a discipline. It's something you do every day, every hour, sometimes every minute. You check in with yourself. You ask hard questions. You watch your own thoughts. And when you notice yourself falling back into weakness, into procrastination, avoidance, comfort seeking, you don't just accept it, you challenge it, you interrogate it. Why am I doing this? What am I running from? What would the strongest version of me choose right now? Those questions asked consistently are enough to shatter the illusion that weak habits are just part of who you are. They're not. They're patterns you've tolerated, can be changed if you have the courage to face it. Awareness gives you that courage. It brings you back into the driver's seat. It lets you see the fork in the road that you didn't even know existed before, and suddenly you realize you do have a choice. You don't have to give in. You don't have to keep losing. You don't have to keep living beneath your calling. But no one can give you that awareness. No one can install it in your brain. You have to want it. You have to cultivate it. You have to wake up every single day and say, today I will see myself. I won't hide behind distractions. I won't numb myself with comfort. I will pay attention. I will notice. I will learn, and I will fight. Because the moment you start seeing the truth about your own habits without judgment, without excuses, just raw, honest observation, that's the moment your transformation begins. Awareness is the beginning of war, and you cannot win until you choose to see. The moment you start seeing your weak habits for what they are, like we just talked about, that's when you come face to face with something even deeper, something more foundational, the beliefs that gave birth to those habits in the first place. Because no behavior exists in a vacuum. Every action you take, every decision you make is rooted in a belief and about who you are and what you're capable of. And if those beliefs are corrupted, weak, or self-defeating, your actions will reflect that every single time. People say, I want to change my life, but they never touch their beliefs. They treat the symptoms, not the cause. They try to change their schedule, their routine, their diet, but they never challenge the inner dialogue that says, you're not good enough, you always quit. You'll never make it. That's like patching holes in a sinking ship without stopping the leak. It doesn't work. It never has. You have to rewire your beliefs. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through mental discipline. Relentless, intentional, daily discipline. You literally have to train your mind to believe something new. And it's not a passive process. It's war. It's intervention. Because you're not just building something new. You're dismantling years of internal propaganda that's been convincing you to stay small, to play it safe, to avoid failure at all costs. Let me ask you, where did those beliefs come from? Were you born with them? No. You inherited them. You absorbed them from culture, from broken family dynamics, from trauma, from every time you failed and weren't taught how to rise from it. And over time, those moments became rules. False rules, invisible chains. And you began to obey them like they were laws of nature. I don't have what it takes. Lies. All of it. And the problem with a lie is once you believe it long enough, it starts to feel like truth. That's why mental discipline is non-negotiable. You have to grab those beliefs and drag them into the light. You have to confront them, challenge them, argue with them. You have to speak truth louder than the lies you've rehearsed for years. But don't expect this to be easy. This isn't feel-good psychology. This is internal combat. You're retraining a mind that's been programmed to avoid effort, to chase comfort, to default to doubt. That's not going to change just because you read a quote on the internet or write a few affirmations on your bathroom mirror. It changes because you show up every single day and you do the work. You learn to talk back to your inner critic with clarity, with courage, and with conviction, not just once, every time it shows up. And here's something people don't tell you. Belief follows behavior. You can't wait until you believe you're strong to start acting strong. You act strong first. You show discipline first. You keep your word to yourself when it's hard. You follow through when no one's watching. And eventually, your mind starts to get the message. Maybe I am that kind of person. Maybe I do have what it takes. That's how new beliefs are born, through consistent, aligned action. Think of it like forging a new path in the brain. Every time you reject the old narrative and choose the higher one, you're carving a trail. And yes, at first it's hard. You'll feel resistance. The old beliefs will scream. But over time, that new path gets stronger, faster, easier to walk. And the old path, it fades because you're not feeding it anymore. That's the power of mental discipline. You don't just learn to think differently, you become someone different. You start to embody the truth instead of just reciting it. You stop playing the victim of your programming and start becoming the architect of your future. But none of this happens if you let your mind run wild. An undisciplined mind is a breeding ground for self-destruction. It'll latch onto fear, comparison, jealousy, comfort, anything that delays growth. So you have to be ruthless. You have to train your mind like an athlete trains their body, with focus, with structure, with purpose. And when those old beliefs try to pull you back, and they will, you remind yourself, I am not my past. I am not my excuses. I am not the voice that says I can't. I am the one who chooses what I become. And that choice is made every day. So if you want to kill weak habits, you must rewire the beliefs that feed them. And if you want to rewire those beliefs, discipline your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. You can do all the inner work in the world, build awareness, rewire your beliefs, discipline your thoughts. But if your environment is pulling you in the opposite direction, you'll constantly feel like you're swimming upstream. And eventually, you'll drown in it. People underestimate how powerful their surroundings are. They think they can out-discipline a toxic environment. They think they can outwork distraction, out-hustle negativity, or ignore mediocrity when it's all around them. But that's not how it works. You can't plant a seed in poisoned soil and expect it to thrive. Your environment is shaping you constantly, more than you realize. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the routines you've normalized, all of these things are silently molding your habits, your mindset, your identity. They're either reinforcing your growth or reinforcing your stagnation. There is no neutral ground. There is no harmless influence. Everything is either sharpening you or dulling you. And that's a terrifying realization for some people, because when you really grasp this, you're forced to admit something uncomfortable, that part of the reason you're still stuck, still battling the same habits, still sabotaging your own progress, is because you've allowed yourself to be surrounded by mediocrity, by people who don't challenge you, by environments that reward passivity, by inputs that numb rather than elevate. And you've convinced yourself that it's fine, that it's not affecting you, but it is every day in subtle, corrosive ways. You can't rise while you're chained to what's pulling you down. You can't develop a champion mindset while you're surrounded by the energy of defeat. You can't cultivate discipline while your environment is designed for distraction. And make no mistake, this modern world is engineered to distract you. The endless noise, the nonstop notifications, the dopamine-driven algorithms, they're not just wasting your time. They're hijacking your attention, your willpower, your very capacity to think clearly. You must take control of your environment, or it will control you. You need to treat your space like sacred ground. Guard it, curate it, fill it with reminders of who you're becoming. Get rid of the clutter, the temptations, the cues that trigger weakness. And maybe you stop hanging out with that friend who's always cynical, always pulling you back into comfort. Maybe you stop watching that show that puts you in a lazy, passive state. Maybe you wake up earlier, organize your space, and structure your day with purpose. And it's not just about removing the negative. It's about intentionally designing your environment to call you higher. You surround yourself with people who are driven, disciplined, focused, because proximity to excellence is contagious. You consume content that feeds your ambition instead of numbing it. You create spaces that invite focus, rituals that foster growth. You make it easier to do the right thing and harder to slip back into weakness. You can't always control everything, that's true. You might be in a job you don't love, a household that's not ideal, a city that drains you. But you control more than you think. You control how you respond. You control what you allow into your mind. You control what you say yes to and what you walk away from. And over time, those small acts of control, they add up. They reshape your reality. It's like this. A lion raised in a zoo doesn't forget how to be a lion, but it loses the urge to hunt. The environment robs it of its nature. That's what weak environments do to us. They don't destroy us outright. They make us forget who we are. They sedate our fire. They dull our edge. And then we wonder why we're not driven anymore, why we don't feel alive. It's not because the fire's gone. It's because the air around you has no oxygen. So change it radically if you must. Let go of what's keeping you small. Step into spaces that demand your evolution and stop waiting for permission to outgrow the people, places, and patterns that no longer serve your highest self. You are not a product of your environment. You are the architect of it. And the moment you take responsibility for shaping the space around you is the moment you reclaim your power to shape the life in front of you. We've been told to fear pain, to run from it, to medicate it, numb it, avoid it at all costs. We've built an entire culture on comfort and convenience, and in doing so, we've created generations of people who see pain as the enemy. But pain is not the enemy, it's the teacher, it's the messenger. And if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to sit with it and learn from it, pain will shape you into something unstoppable. Every weak habit you have, procrastination, avoidance, addiction to comfort, it exists because somewhere along the line you made a silent agreement with yourself. I won't face the discomfort, I'll choose ease instead. And that agreement feels good in the moment. It's the path of least resistance. But over time, it becomes a prison. Because you start to structure your entire life around what feels good now instead of what leads to strength later. And what does that do? It stunts your growth. It suffocates your potential. It turns you into a shadow of the person you were meant to become. See, pain is not there to destroy you. It's there to wake you up, to point you toward what matters. Physical pain tells you something's wrong in your body. Emotional pain tells you something's misaligned in your life. And psychological pain, shame, regret, anxiety, That's your inner self screaming that the path you're on is not leading to your highest potential. Pain is information. It's feedback. It's truth. And it demands your attention. But we've been conditioned to ignore it. We bury it under distractions. We scroll, we binge, we numb, we pretend it's not there. And every time we do that, we miss the lesson. We miss the transformation. Because the growth you're looking for, the change, the breakthrough, the next level, it lives on the other side of discomfort. You cannot avoid pain and expect to rise. The people you admire, the disciplined, the focused, the resilient, they didn't become that way because life was easy. They became that way because they learned to embrace pain, to walk into it willingly, to let it sharpen them instead of soften them. And that's a choice. It's always a choice. You can either let pain become your excuse, or you can let it become your edge. Pain forces you to confront who you really are. It strips away the masks, exposes what's weak, what's fragile, what's untested. And that process, it's brutal, but it's also necessary. Because the version of you that can endure pain with purpose, that's the version of you that can't be stopped. That's the version of you that builds discipline not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. That, the version that walks into the fire and comes out forged, not burned. And understand this, choosing pain is not the same as chasing suffering. This isn't about martyrdom, it's about meaning. When pain has a purpose, it becomes powerful. When you decide, I'm going to feel the pain of pushing through this workout instead of the pain of being disappointed in myself again tomorrow, you've turned pain into a tool. When you say, I'm going to face the discomfort of setting boundaries instead of living in silent resentment, you've turned pain into power. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about refusing to settle. Weak habits are the avoidance of pain. Every time you hit snooze, instead of getting up, it's to avoid the pain of movement. Every time you delay your work, it's to avoid the pain of effort. Every time you give in to temptation, it's to avoid the pain of self-denial. But what you're doing every single time is trading short-term comfort for long-term suffering. And the irony is, the pain you're running from, it doesn't disappear. It just compounds. It builds in the shadows, and one day it shows up as failure, regret, lost potential, and by then it's much harder to face. But if you flip that dynamic, if you choose the pain now, you gain freedom later. You earn the strength that others only dream of. You become someone who doesn't flinch at hardship, someone who doesn't break when life gets heavy, someone who can look pain in the eye and say, I'm not afraid of you. I know who you are, and I know why you're here. You want to kill weak habits? Then stop avoiding the pain that's been trying to teach you. Lean into it, learn from it, let it mold you into something unshakable. Because pain isn't your enemy, it's the training ground of your evolution. Most people live their lives reacting. They wake up late, already behind, already stressed. The phone buzzes, they check it. A craving hits, they feed it. A thought appears, they follow it. No intention, no structure, no resistance. Just reaction after reaction, as if they're being pulled through life by invisible strings. And then they wonder why they feel powerless, why they keep falling back into the same habits, why they never seem to gain any real traction. It's because without ritual, your life is not your own. It belongs to the chaos. Weak habits are born in those unconscious moments, the ones where you have no plan, no anchor, no rhythm. When you're ruled by your emotions or your fatigue or your impulses, you're not making decisions, you're just responding. And the brain loves that. It loves repetition. It loves ease. So if your default response to stress is to grab your phone, to snack, to scroll, to avoid, guess what becomes a habit? That. Every time you react, you reinforce. Every time you give in, you train your mind to believe that's who you are. But there's a way out, a way to reclaim your will. And it's not through willpower alone. Willpower fades. Discipline cracks. You can't rely on raw force forever. You need structure. You need ritual. Because ritual is stronger than reaction. Ritual is deliberate. It's conscious. It's a statement to yourself and the world. This is who I am. This is how I move. This is what I do. No matter how I feel. Think about it. Every powerful person you admire, they don't just wing it. They don't just hope they make the right choice in a tough moment. They build systems. morning routines, focused work blocks, bedtime shutdowns, sacred space for stillness or training or study, rituals that align their actions with their identity. And that's the key. Rituals don't just organize your day, they sculpt your self-concept. They reinforce who you're becoming. And you don't need to start big, start simple. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is it intentional or is it reactive? Because how you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you roll out of bed, check your notifications, scroll through chaos, you've already handed over control. But if you start with breath, stillness, movement, a written intention, you've taken command, you've drawn the line. It's the same with focus. When it's time to work, do you have a ritual that prepares your mind for war? A clearing of distractions, review of your goals? Or do you dive straight into the noise and hope for clarity to appear? Rituals give your mind cues. It's time to show up, time to engage, time to perform. And over time, the ritual itself becomes the trigger for excellence. Reactions are unconscious. Rituals are sacred. When you build rituals, you start to remove decision fatigue. You don't wonder if you're going to train today. You already decided that yesterday. You don't question if you're going to eat clean. You built your meals in advance. You don't debate whether or not to journal or stretch or unplug. You've baked it into your rhythm. That rhythm becomes your shield, your compass, your proof that you're not just drifting. You're building. This matters more than most people realize, because when the storms come, and they will come, it's your rituals that keep you grounded. When motivation vanishes, when emotion overwhelms, when nothing feels certain, your rituals are what remain. They're the rope you grab when you're slipping. And every time you return to them, you rebuild trust with yourself. You prove to your mind, I am the kind of person who keeps showing up. But be careful here. Rituals must be aligned. Don't build rituals that cater to your comfort. Build ones that demand your growth. Your ritual isn't supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you better. That's where transformation happens, in the tension, in the consistency, in the decision to stick with it when every part of you wants to bail. And yes, it will feel mechanical at first, forced, awkward. That's normal. You're rewiring a system. You're training your nervous system to obey a new rhythm. But keep going. Stay with it. Because one day you'll look up and the ritual that used to feel hard now feels like home. And the reactions that used to control you, they don't even tempt you anymore. You've transcended them. You've replaced chaos with clarity. You've replaced weakness with rhythm. You've chosen to live on purpose. And that's the difference between those who stay trapped in cycles of self-sabotage and those who rise above them. The difference isn't talent. It's not luck. It's not even motivation. It's ritual. Chosen, repeated, protected until it becomes identity, until it becomes inevitable, until you no longer react to life, you lead it. You can train your body, build routines, master your environment, but if your mind is starving for purpose, you'll still feel hollow, because discipline without direction is just motion. Strength without vision becomes burnout. It's not enough to do the right things. You have to know why you're doing them. Purpose is the fuel. Vision is the compass. Without those two, your efforts scatter, your willpower drains, and eventually you start to question whether any of it even matters. And that's the trap, that quiet erosion of meaning. You start off strong, maybe even obsessed with growth. But over time, if you don't connect your actions to a deeper reason, something bigger than just self-improvement for the sake of it, you begin to drift. You begin to wonder, what am I even building this for? That doubt, left unchecked, will rot your motivation from the inside out. Purpose gives you clarity. It draws a line between who you are and who you're becoming. It reminds you why you choose discipline over distraction, why you reject weakness when one's watching. It turns every small act, waking up early, pushing through pain, resisting temptation, into something sacred, something that serves a mission. And that mission doesn't have to be grand in the eyes of the world. It just has to be honest, real, something you'd fight for when everything else falls away. Vision, on the other hand, gives you direction. It keeps your mind focused on the horizon. even when the path feels slow. When you know what you're building, when you see it vividly, you can endure setbacks, boredom, discomfort. You stop needing to be constantly entertained or motivated because now your actions are tied to a future you believe in, a future worth enduring the weight of today for. But here's the truth. Your mind can't generate purpose and vision in a vacuum. It feeds on what you put into it. So if you're filling your mind with noise, with cynicism, with distraction, don't be surprised when you feel directionless. Don't be surprised when strength seems distant. You must be intentional about what you consume. Books that elevate you, conversations that challenge you, content that aligns with who you want to become. Every input is either fueling your fire or snuffing it out. You don't feed strength with empty calories. You feed it with meaning, with clarity, with a future worth reaching for. You remind yourself daily, this is why I rise, this is why I endure, and this is who I refuse to be, and this is the life I am building brick by brick, no matter how long it takes. Because when your mind is fueled by vision and your heart anchored in purpose, no weakness can take root in you. You become grounded, focused, relentless. Not because life is easy, but because you finally remember what you're here for. So here we are, at the edge of who you've been and the threshold of who you could become. And the difference between the two, it isn't talent, it isn't luck. It's choice, a decision to no longer live at the mercy of weak habits, a refusal to let distraction, comfort, or fear define you any longer. You educate your mind to see clearly. You rewire your beliefs to align with strength. You take hold of your environment before it takes hold of you. You stop running from pain and let it refine you. You build rituals that ground you when the chaos comes. And you fuel your vision with purpose so deep it pulls you forward when everything else says stop. This isn't about becoming perfect. It treats you kindly. It's not a natural outcome of comfort. It's a disciplined choice, a conscious commitment, a habit of the soul that has to be forged through struggle. You wake up in the morning and already your mind starts scanning for what's wrong. That's the default setting for most people, because the brain is wired for survival, not happiness. It's hunting for danger, for threats, for uncertainty. And if you let it run wild, it will anchor you in negativity before you've even stepped out of bed. That's why you must intervene. You must train yourself moment by moment to say, no, I will not hand over the direction of my day to whatever emotion stirs first. I choose how I see this. I choose how I respond. That's the point where growth begins, when you stop waiting to feel positive and start forcing yourself to act positive. Because action is far more powerful than mood. Your mood might say, I'm tired. Your mindset must answer, but I'm moving forward anyway. Your emotions might whisper, why bother? Your spirit must shout back, because I'm building something bigger than this moment. The world is full of people waiting for motivation, for energy, for a reason to smile. But what they don't understand is that positivity is the reason. It's the fuel. It's what turns a hard life into a heroic one. And it's not fake to force it. It's mature. It's what strength actually looks like. Do you think warriors feel like getting up every day and going into battle? No. But they rise, they armor up. They take one more step forward. Not because they feel good, but because they've decided who they want to be. You have to make that same decision every single day. When the past tries to define you, choose positivity. When fear creeps in, choose positivity. When people betray you, overlook you, misunderstand you, choose positivity. Not because you're blind, but because you've trained your mind to see deeper, to believe that there's something meaningful behind the pain, something being shaped in you that this world desperately needs. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It doesn't mean pretending things are perfect. It means acknowledging the storm, but refusing to drown in it. It means saying, yes, this is hard, but I'm harder. It means carrying a light inside you so strong that even when everything outside of you is dark, that inner flame doesn't go out. And the most powerful part, The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Like a muscle, positivity grows through resistance. And one day you'll face a situation that would have broken the old you, and you'll smile. Not because it's easy, but because now you own your outlook. You've taken command of your spirit. So stop waiting. Stop hoping for positivity to arrive like some guest at your doorstep. You are the host. You must summon it, speak it, live it, even when you don't feel it. Especially when you don't feel it, because that's when it matters most. That's when it becomes real. And when you live like that, day after day, something incredible happens. The world may not change immediately, but you do. And that's where the revolution begins. Negative thoughts have a way of screaming at you when you're already at your weakest. They don't show up when you're full of clarity and momentum. No, they come when you're tired, when you're uncertain, when you've just been knocked down. And they don't whisper, they shout. They try to take over the narrative of your mind with fear, shame, and hopelessness. You hear them say things like, "You're not good enough. You'll never change. This pain is permanent." And if you're not careful, you start believing them, not because they're true, but because they're loud. But volume doesn't equal truth. Just because a thought is persistent doesn't mean it's accurate. You don't have to accept every idea that passes through your mind. That's one of the greatest realizations a person can have. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. You get to decide which ones stay and which ones go. And the thoughts that try to tear you down, the ones soaked in self-hatred and fear, they're not divine revelations. They're often the residue of old wounds, buried insecurities, generational trauma, or the influence of a broken world. You have to learn how to challenge those thoughts. You don't argue with them like they're a friend. You confront them like they're a thief trying to rob your peace. Ask yourself, where did this thought come from? Is it rooted in truth or just in emotion? Does it align with who I want to become? Or is it trying to drag me back to who I used to be? Most negative thoughts dissolve when exposed to truth and reason. They thrive only in passivity. The moment you actively confront them, they lose their grip. And here's the deeper issue. If you never confront those thoughts, they will quietly become your beliefs. And once something becomes a belief, it starts shaping your identity. That's how people get trapped in cycles of self-sabotage. They've internalized a lie as truth. So when you hear that voice say, "You always mess things up," you must counter it immediately. No, I've failed. Yes. But that doesn't mean I always will. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm evolving. When your mind says you're not worthy, you must stand up in the spirit and say, "I am created with purpose. I am not my past. I am here for a reason." This isn't about pretending that everything is fine. It's about declaring that you are not going to surrender to a mindset that was never meant to lead you. You must become your own protector, guarding your mental environment the same way you'd guard your home. You wouldn't let a poisonous snake crawl into your bed and just lay there. So why let toxic thoughts live rent-free in your mind? One of the strongest things you can do is speak truth out loud in the face of inner chaos. Not because it instantly fixes everything, but because it reclaims your authority. And over time, as you keep speaking against the lies, they grow quieter. The voice of fear gets smaller. The voice of truth gets stronger. And eventually you stop being ruled by what you feel, and you start being guided by what you know. So the next time those thoughts come, the loud, destructive ones, don't cower, don't comply, confront them with everything in you. Call them out for what they are, intruders. Because once you realize that negative thoughts may be loud, but they're not the truth, you stop living in reaction and start living in purpose. And that shift, that's the beginning of real freedom. What you focus on will multiply. That's not just a motivational phrase, it's a psychological and spiritual reality. Your attention is one of the most powerful forces you have. It acts like a magnifying glass. Whatever you direct it toward begins to grow, not necessarily because it's objectively growing, but because your perception gives it weight, detail, and influence. That's why when you focus on pain, everything starts to hurt. When you focus on fear, every step becomes a threat. When you fixate on failure, you see no path forward. Just reminders of why you're not enough. But the inverse is just as true. If you discipline your mind to focus on growth, even in the face of chaos, then strength starts to rise. New opportunities start to reveal themselves. A sense of meaning begins to emerge where confusion used to live. The difference isn't always in the world around you, it's in the lens you've chosen to look through. Life is going to throw plenty at you. Loss, disappointment, betrayal, uncertainty, none of us are exempt. And you'll always have a choice in how you respond. You can dwell on the injustice, you can loop the failure in your mind until it becomes a narrative, or you can stop and say, what can I learn here? What part of me is being tested, refined, stretched? What part of my character is being invited to grow stronger right now? That shift is everything. It's not naive, it's not toxic positivity, it's spiritual maturity. It's recognizing that your focus either feeds your weakness or fuels your transformation. You can feed your fear or you can feed your faith, but you can't do both at once. You get to decide where your energy goes. And here's the thing, focusing on growth doesn't mean denying pain, it means using the pain. It means stepping back from the chaos and asking a better question. Instead of why me, try what is this building in me? Instead of how do I get out of this, ask who am I becoming through this? Those questions don't just shift your mindset, they shift your entire direction. They turn hardship into fuel. And this is where it becomes practical. If you want to grow, then you have to take inventory of what you're feeding your mind daily. What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What are you telling yourself when no one else is around? Growth doesn't happen by accident. You have to plant it, water it, and protect it. You have to make a decision every single day that no matter what comes against you, you will respond like someone who is becoming more, not collapsing into less. You might not be able to control what happens to you, but you can absolutely control what you focus on. And where your focus goes, your life will follow. So if you want more strength, focus on building it. If you want more peace, focus on feeding it. If you want to rise, then stop staring at what keeps you down and fix your gaze on what calls you higher. That's the secret to lasting transformation, not motivation, not emotion. Focus. Quiet, consistent, disciplined focus on growth. That's what shapes a life worth living. And the moment you commit to that, not for a day, but as a way of life, you begin to multiply what truly matters. And that's when your future starts to look radically different from your past. There are going to be days when the weight is too much, when the air feels heavy and your heart sinks without explanation. On those days, positivity won't come naturally. It won't show up in your thoughts and it won't show up in your emotions. And that's exactly why you have to speak it into existence, not because it's easy, but because if you don't, the negativity will fill the silence. Words have power, tremendous power. They shape the atmosphere around you and the beliefs within you. What you say repeatedly becomes what you start to believe, and what you believe dictates how you behave, how you show up, and who you ultimately become. Most people don't realize that their words are either reinforcing their suffering or lifting them out of it. Every time you say, I'm stuck, you reinforce your chains. Every time you say, I'll never be good enough, you invite that belief deeper into your identity. But when you speak words of growth, of faith, of possibility, even when they feel like lies, you plant seeds that your future self will harvest. You don't wait to speak positivity until you feel strong. You speak it so you can become strong. It's an act of leadership over your own life, a declaration of intention. And it often starts awkwardly. You'll feel foolish saying things like, I'm healing, or I'm getting better, or I'm built for this, when everything in your circumstances says otherwise. But those declarations aren't about the present. They're about your direction. They're reminders of where you're headed, not where you've been. This is where many people get stuck. They think they're being realistic by only speaking what they feel. But feelings are not the whole truth. They are fleeting. They change with sleep, with food, with a single conversation. You cannot let them write the script of your life. If you want to live a life rooted in purpose, you have to start speaking from your purpose, not just from your pain. It's not enough to think positive thoughts in your head. You have to hear your own voice, declare them out loud. Your nervous system responds to that. Your subconscious listens. There is something deeply spiritual and psychological about speaking into the silence, about taking ownership of your language, especially when the world expects you to collapse. And don't just speak vague affirmations. Get specific. Call yourself into discipline, into strength, into forgiveness, into clarity. Say, I am not giving up today. Say, I may be tired, but I'm still moving. Say, I am not a victim of my emotions. I'm the architect of my mindset. These aren't just words, they're weapons. Weapons you use to protect your focus, your future, and your soul. And the beauty is, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you become stronger. Your words train your thoughts train your actions, and eventually you become the kind of person who speaks power into dead places and watches life rise. So speak even when your voice shakes. Declare it even when your reality doesn't reflect it yet, because your words are not just commentary, they are prophecy. And when you consistently choose to speak life, you won't just change how you feel, you'll change what you build, what you attract, and what you become. You can't expect to stay positive if everything around you is pulling you into darkness. That's not weakness, that's reality. We are profoundly shaped by what we absorb, the people we talk to, the habits we entertain, the environment we place ourselves in day after day. Your surroundings either nourish your mindset or sabotage it. And if you're serious about becoming someone stronger, more focused, more grounded, you have to take full responsibility for the space you're allowing to shape your soul. Most people don't realize how much of their negativity is environmental. They think it's all internal, that it's just their own failure to be disciplined or grateful. But they're swimming upstream in a toxic river. They're trying to speak life into themselves while their environment constantly echoes fear, doubt, drama, and distraction. You can't plant a tree in poisoned soil and then blame the tree for not growing. And in the same way, you can't flourish in a space that's built to keep you small, scared, and silent. So take inventory. Who are the people you let into your mental, emotional space? Are they building you or draining you? Are they speaking possibility or constantly pulling everything into criticism and complaint? Sometimes loyalty keeps us in proximity to people we should have outgrown. You can love someone and still create space to protect your peace. You're not responsible for fixing everyone. You are responsible for guarding the vision that's been placed inside you. And if someone is constantly clouding that vision with their bitterness or chaos, you need to step back. Not with hate, with wisdom. And then there are your habits, the quiet routines that no one sees, but that shape who you become. What are you feeding your mind when you wake up? What's the first thing you reach for, your phone or your focus? What's the tone you set for yourself at the start of the day? Is it discipline or distraction? Too many people are trying to stay positive while binging content that makes them feel behind, unworthy, or angry. And they wonder why they're anxious, why they feel lost. Your input becomes your outlook. What you repeatedly expose yourself to becomes what you normalize. So ask yourself, are your habits helping you rise or pulling you down? And the environment itself, the space you inhabit physically, matters more than you think. The light, the noise, the clutter. If your space is chaos, your mind will mirror it. Clean your environment and you'll be shocked how much clarity follows. Make room for silence, for reflection, for order. These are not luxuries, they're necessities for a healthy soul. A messy room may not seem like a big deal, but when you live in disorder, you unconsciously reinforce the belief that nothing is under control order your environment, and you remind yourself that you can take responsibility, that you can create peace, even in small things. And you know what else happens when you surround yourself with light? You begin to attract more of it. The right people will start appearing, not by magic, but by resonance. You'll draw in those who are serious about purpose, about peace, about progress. And those who thrive in drama or dysfunction, they'll feel out of place, not because you've judged them, but because you've shifted the frequency of your life. And those who are unwilling to rise won't feel comfortable staying. That's not loss, that's alignment. This isn't about perfection. It's not about cutting off everyone who disagrees with you or living in a sterile bubble. It's about protecting your inner atmosphere so that you can keep growing, keep rising, and keep becoming. You don't have to control the whole world, but you do have to control what you allow into your world. Because staying positive isn't just about mental toughness. It's about building a life that supports the version of you that you're trying to become. And when you consistently surround yourself with light through people who uplift you, habits that discipline you, and environments that inspire you, you don't have to force positivity every day. It starts to feel like home. And once positivity becomes your home, no darkness can make you forget who you are. Pain has a strange way of making everything else feel irrelevant. When it strikes, whether it's the loss of someone you love, the collapse of something you worked so hard to build, or the quiet ache of not being where you thought you'd be in life, it narrows your vision, it consumes your thoughts, blurs your perspective, and often blinds you to anything good that still remains. That's the danger. Because when pain takes center stage, gratitude seems like a foreign language. It feels out of place, almost offensive. But it's precisely then that gratitude becomes the most powerful force you have. Gratitude isn't about denying your pain, it's about refusing to let it define you. It's the courageous act of saying, yes, I'm hurting, but I'm still here, I'm still breathing, I still have purpose buried under all this sorrow. It's the decision to see that even in the darkest moments, there are flickers of light, and those flickers are often enough to keep going. Because when everything is falling apart, even the smallest reasons to be thankful become anchors for your soul. You'll meet people who've been through hell and still smile, not because they're naive, but because they've learned to dig for the good even when it's buried deep. They've discovered that pain can destroy you or refine you, and the difference is what you choose to focus on. If you only see the loss, the injustice, the suffering, then bitterness grows. But if, in the middle of that storm, you can say, there's still something in me that's alive, something that can grow from this, then pain becomes a doorway, not a prison. Gratitude transforms pain. It doesn't erase it, but it gives it meaning. It turns a wound into wisdom. When you can look at the most painful chapters of your life and still say, thank you for the strength, for the clarity, for what I learned about myself, then you've taken power back from the pain. It no longer controls you. It no longer owns the narrative. And the truth is, pain and gratitude can coexist. They often do. Gratitude doesn't require perfect circumstances. It requires awareness. Awareness that even in suffering, there are lessons unfolding. That you're not abandoned, even if you feel alone. That something in you is being shaped, forged in the fire, prepared for a life of deeper meaning. But it takes training. You don't just stumble into gratitude. You practice it, especially when it's hardest. When the voice in your head says, there's nothing left to be thankful for. That's when you dig deeper. You find it in the breath in your lungs, in the strength you didn't know you had, in the friends who showed up, in the resilience you've developed just by making it to today. And when you practice gratitude in pain, something strange happens. You don't just survive, you grow. You develop a kind of inner armor, not made of denial or suppression, but made of truth. A truth that says, life may be brutal, but I am unbreakable. And that strength, the kind born in hardship, tempered by gratitude, that strength becomes the foundation for the rest of your life. The world doesn't need more people who pretend everything is fine. It needs people who've walked through fire and come out shining, not because they avoided the pain, but because they chose to be grateful within it. People who've refused to let darkness steal their light, who've looked at their wounds and said, "You may have hurt me." Gratitude in pain is not weakness. It's not delusion. It's a radical act of power. It says, even though I'm bleeding, I still believe. Even though I'm grieving, I still see good. Even though I'm struggling, I still rise. And in that posture, broken but thankful, weary but still hopeful, you become unstoppable. After everything we've explored through the trials of thought, the weight of emotion, and the resilience of spirit, one truth stands tall above the rest. Positivity is not a luxury. It's not reserved for those with easy lives or perfect circumstances. It's a spiritual discipline, a daily choice, a deliberate act of war against the chaos that tries to live inside your mind and the darkness that lurks in the world around you. Staying positive isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about facing everything that isn't and choosing to respond with strength, vision, and purpose anyway. It's about realizing that even when your thoughts are loud and negative, they aren't the truth, that what you focus on really does shape your reality, that the words you speak can build a new atmosphere, that the people you allow close, the habits you practice, and the environment you create all influence your ability to rise. And most of all, it's about holding on to gratitude in the middle of pain, not as weakness,